Welcome to the Red Gauge Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Kyle. This is Josh. Today we're joined by Coach Dereck Pringle. Coach Pringle's been coaching in the South Sound for almost 30 years now. He started at River Ridge, worked at South Puget Sound, Chief Leshy, Evergreen, Grays Harbor, Shelton High, Rochester, and he's back at Evergreen coaching the girls basketball team. And even more impressively, he's been running DAP Hoops, which is a youth basketball program since 1997, nonprofit, giving his time to the community. So really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Celebrity, Northwest celebrity here.
No, just doing it hard.
I always joke, like at the end of that, I felt like I need to clap or something. We need like an applause button or something. Like,
Yeah, you need a job to do at the end of the introduction.
Yeah, that's just an impressive resume right there.
Yeah.
Mine's like at Shelton. All right.
Yours is more impressive than mine. Mine is just like cave troll. Lifts weights in his basement.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, Coach. How did you get into sport?
Well, back in high school, I played football.
Yeah.
Back on the East Coast for 3 years. Loved it. Ran track, and then when I had kids, my son was coming up, and take the kids to the Y, learn sport and all that. Got in there a couple times, and they kept saying, "Hey, we need a volunteer," and I was like, "No, not me. I can't teach nobody nothing." Because my mindset was, back when I played ball, it was, get over here, get over there, and here we got 7 and 8-year-olds. I couldn't do that to them. Because they be crying and all upset, and parents be upset with me. So
I always joke about that. Like, I think high school is the lowest I can go. I've tried to coach down a little bit, but I just tell people like my personality just doesn't work down there, man. Like,
it takes a lot. I tell you what,
it does.
Took me. I mean, when you go back and you watch things about yourself, and you hear your voice, going off, like, man, did I just say that? To that little kid? Oh, my bad. Sorry. Or you get a phone call like, you was kind of rough on those little kids. Hey, I only know one way. Being in the military too, I only know one way how to come. But I started with the YMCA, and then we moved I left Korea and went to West Virginia to run a meth station for 3 years, and it was 2 young men there, and I loved them to death. They were just out of Indiana, University of Indiana. Okay. And they ran the YMCA in the summer, and they started basketball. And they had like a little mock draft, you name it, they had it. And so I took my son there, dropped him off, and I went back to the car. And I came back in, and it's like 6 or 8 kids over here just sitting there, and nobody picked them. Well, I didn't know in the mock draft, they picked from the team the year before. They knew kids. I didn't know nobody. So I'm sitting there like, okay, did you get picked? He said, no, so I'm ready to go home. And the guy walked out and said, hey, we were a team short. I said, okay, so you got kids here. Can one of you guys coach it? He said, no, can you coach it? I said, man, I don't know no basketball. I'm not a basketball player. I play street ball, but I'm not playing, no. And he said, oh, come on, man, we just need a body. So I looked over there, and his parents said, hey, my son's first time, like your son's first time too, because my son couldn't make he couldn't make a layup. And I said, yeah, it's his first time. She said, well, just do it. It's only 10 games. Every Saturday, 1 hour. I said, okay. So I ended up doing it, and then those same guys at the end of the season, they was watching all the kids as they grow. In West Virginia, basketball is like in New York, basketball is the mecca. It's
football in Texas.
Yeah, exactly, in Texas, just like that. So at the end of the season, they took all-stars, and they picked from each team and made all-star teams from high-level AAU all the way down to Youth Basketball of America, which is similar to AAU. And my son, I didn't think my son was gonna make it because he was tall, but he couldn't make a layup. All he could do is rebound. And they picked him. And I was like, what? And they said, well, yeah. They said, we like him. He works hard. I said, okay. I said, okay, I told my wife. She said, okay, what does that entail? So we started going to practices. And what they did was they didn't take the top team. They took that team, which is the third team, and made it into pretty much a dynasty. Because the high school coach was watching every game on Saturday of the kids that were coming up. So he was just watching certain kids by demeanor, attitude, and all that kind of stuff play. And he would always talk to them because I see him in practice talking to them. And I'm saying, who's that guy? They said, it's Coach Barksdale, Dave Barksdale. He's a legend. I said, oh, he said that, he only got 3 teams here. No, they only had 2 teams, JV and varsity. So like 200 kids have tried out at high school level. And they only keep 24. I'm like, because we only had one high school. I'm like, whoa, that's just crazy. So he would come to everything those kids did. And then I just sit back and just watch. I said, well, I'll be your first aid person because I was a medic in the Army. So I said, I'll just take care of, injuries and all that. I know how to do that kind of stuff. They said, thanks. So they kept on for like 3 years we were down there. They had my son in them and they brought him through and they started sending them to camps. And then we started sending my son to camps. And so I started sitting on camps, watching. I got to go down to Duke a couple of times with my son and them and just watching Coach K, watching.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. You get to step in Cameron, crazy stadium, and sitting there and you watching. And he knew everybody in there. And you talking about 200-300 kids. As the week went on, he spoke to just about every kid. And that was amazing. I was like, man, how he does that? I don't know how you do it,
Right.
And so I started following them. And then we got shipped back out here in 96. And we were trying to find basketball. My son was a freshman there. And so went to the Y. I started coaching the Y a little bit in the summer. And I met some other kids. And then next thing I know, got to high school. I started to see they had, instead of my son and them, playing for, trying for 2 teams. Now they got 4 teams. Back then they had the freshman team, the C team, the JV, and the varsity at all the high schools in Washington.
Right.
And that was like, it just shocked me. I'm like, so no kid get cut. I said, I like that. So they had 40 kids in their program. So I just watched all the high schools. And then when the summer came out, that's when it was one AAU program called Friends of Hoop, and George Call. I don't know if you remember him. He's coach of Sonics.
Sonics coach. Yep.
Yeah, he sponsored it, and the kids from all over would try to go up there and make his program. He had like 3 teams, and I took my son up there, and you got Rainier Beach kids, you got Garfield kids. I mean, you got the best of the best. And that was an eye-opener because the kids down here didn't know how basketball was being played up there.
Yeah.
They was getting like, choo, choo, choo. Everybody was gone. I'm like, so I came back and my son said, Dad, can you coach an AAU team? I got some kids that want to play. I said, I don't know, man. I'm still in the Army. I don't know if I'm going to be here long enough. And then it's funny because my boss, she's a marathon runner. She played volleyball, and what she did was we had a meeting, and she said, "Do any of you guys get involved in youth sports?" And I kind of did like this, I ain't want to put like this. I did like this, She said, "Oh, I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay." She said, "Where do you live?" I said, "I live in Lacey." She said, "I do too." She said, I want you to get out there and get involved. We need people out in the community more and more. I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "But what you want me to do?" She said, "What you coach?" I said, "Well, at the time too, I was still playing football up here at the Army, the 8-man tackle at Fort Lewis.
Yeah.
So I didn't give up my sport. I was still loving it." And so she said, "Well, I'll let you go do that if you just coach a little bit." She said, "Start at the YMCA." So I started at the YMCA, and from the Y, it just went off. I started with those kids. I think I had 12. And then I had a guy that had a gym down here named Ivory Stuckey. He had a little small gym in Lacey, and he was a basketball person. And we linked up, and we started DAP hoops. And Next thing you know, it just ran, you know. And then fast forward to that, got my, my son and all the kids through high school, you know. Then my daughter was coming up. They 7 years apart. And she looked dude, what about me? I'm like, I don't coach girls.
Not now, not ever.
Nah. She's like, what? I said, nah. I said, I get somebody to coach you. So I did. And this guy, he was at St. Martin's then. His name was Tim Healy. His daughter was like 2 years younger than my daughter. But they had a 6th grade team. She was a 4th grader, but she could play. And then he said, all my kids go to Ole. I was like, ooh. And we was in Lacey. I said, well, okay. And he said, well, why don't you just coach your daughter? You did good with the boys. I said, oh, no, man. I said, no. He said, trust me, you'll like it. Fast forward to that, I'm back in the Y, coaching her. Met this guy named Melvin Miller. His daughter was, I think, a 5th grader, 5th or 6th grade. No, 5th grader. He had these girls, he's coaching at the Y, retired military. We started building a relationship. He took my daughter and his girls, and we just formed a team. That's when the Comets came out in the WNBA. You know, it was a team called the Comets. And that was a blessing because it taught me how to deal with kids, say in general. And we ended up building a girls team it was phenomenal. I mean, that was I can say, as a coach of winning, that team for 5 years was just killing. I mean, we went to Seattle, got thumped, came back down here. I said, well, we're not going back to Seattle. We'll stay down here and play. They said, no, we're going back. Those girls wanted to go back.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, do you not know them girls are bigger than y'all? And they faster and they good. Coach, we want to go back. So we took them back up there and the table turned. And I was telling the story to one of my players the other day. She asked me the same question, how you get involved coaching women basketball? And I told him, I said, those 13 girls flipped it and they made it happen. Next thing you know, we got invited to Vegas, we did down in Oregon, and I watched all of them go through high school together. And then I just kept, building the program. After that was any kid that wanted to come in, that even was cut, did not know how to play, wanted to learn how to play, I would never turn them away. And so I just focus on training and teaching and, building character, building discipline and positive attitude. That's what DAP stand for anyway, positive attitude, positive performance. If you got those 3 things, you can't go wrong in, making your high school team. So that's how we got started. And I got hooked on basketball. I started reading books and studying, and then,
When do you feel like you thought you were, like, how long did you last thinking you weren't a basketball coach? Like, how into that were you going home like, dude, I don't even know what's going on. I am not a basketball coach.
It was a long time. Because I go home sometimes, and I'm looking like, did I do the right thing? Did I call the right play? And then that's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then my son, he always told me, he said, you're doing good. I said, man, I don't know. Because he just retired as a college coach. And so I would ask him, I said, man, I don't know all the schemes and the angles. I'm like this. That football mentality, if I fumble, okay, defense get the ball back. That's me. All right, next play. Okay, we just lost the ball. I'm gonna get it back. So we had a turnover. I told we're gonna press the hell out of them. We're gonna make them frustrated, and that's what we did. We just, and so my defense was my offense, and my defense was my signature, and it showed me I can teach that using the football mentality. But when it came down to the X's and O's, I'm looking like, put the ball in the hole. Give it to the big, and that's how I got it. And I think when I got to Evergreen, my first tour, I learned from Coach Monica Hoyer. What she did was, I used to watch in the meetings, and she was just strategically playing, we playing OIT. here's their best players. Okay, here's the ones our best players. You matching up with them, and then she had me go back and watch film and just watch them, and then watch us and see would it would be equal, as far as slowing that person down or making things happen. But it took me a while, man. At least probably to this day, I'm still trying to figure it out. Coaching women basketball. Evergreen. I mean, I'm still in like that honeymoon stage. I'm like, I'm coaching this. I always wanted to, but it just, I just retired from the state, and then last year this job opened up, and they called me and said, "Hey, would you come back?" And I was like, "For what? I'm done. I'm done with sports." And they said, "No, we got opportunity in that." I talked to my wife, and I prayed about it, called my son, and I said, I always wanted to change something for the better, because I graduated from Evergreen too. I wanted to give back, and my son said, "This is your chance."
Yeah.
So.
Was your wife surprised at all? I feel like she was probably, when you were like, I think I might coach again. She was probably like, "Yeah, no crap. I knew that was going to happen."
I thought you wasn't going to coach no more. I thought, I said, well, she said, but no, it's an opportunity. But she's very supportive. She was like, "Hey, man, you got your chance to do what you always wanted to do." Because I always talked about it. And I said, yeah. I said, because I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it's here. Opportunities right now. And I was like, she said, well, I think you do good. This is what you got to do. A, B, C, D. I'll come out there, we always joke about it. I give you little tips and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay. What she does, when I don't do right, she let me know. Why didn't you press that one? Why didn't you get that one? I got it.
Having coached both sides, what do you, other than obviously the obvious things, what do you feel like is the biggest difference? We have like the big differences of coaching males and females in the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you feel like the big differences are between having coached young men and young ladies on the court?
Young women are methodical. They think a lot. They are very, okay, how do you do this? They want to learn it, and they want to do it the right way. Young men, I got it. You ain't got to tell me that, because I got to come. Oh, I got stuck, coach. Yeah, you got stuck because you did it wrong. It just, they want to learn. And when you win them over, that's just the joy of watching them conquer something, because I got the Evergreen, we had a tall girl from Elma, named Jalen Sackrider, and she was a beast in the post and all that. And so I asked her, I said, "Hey, do you shoot 3-pointers?" She said, "No, they won't let me shoot threes." I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. Okay. I said, well, she said, "Why?" I said, "Well, if everybody shoot the ball, we get more points." I said, "Now, let's say I'm guarding you and I push you out the post. Are you going to pass it or shoot it?" She said, "If it's a mid-range, I'll shoot it. If it's further out, I'm going to pass it out." I said, "No, I don't want that." She said, "Why?" I said, "Here's my strategy. They push you out. You should be able to make that 3-pointer. You shoot that 3, then they come out, and then you go back in. You know what I mean? So you go back in, you post up, and then because she was dangerous on the inside. So they already scouted you. They know what you're going to do. You're going to post up. You're going to shoot the mid-range. They're going to W. Well, you go out to the 3, they can't W because they're going to put one person up. So what you going to do?" I said, "Shoot the ball." So, that whole preseason, I pulled it out. I said, we would run plays. I said, "Get out. Hit Jay in the corner." Boom, she missed a couple. Boom, and she started hitting it. And I think our first 9 games that we played this year, she was killing. She was like player of the week. Her 3-point percentage was up. She was averaging 15 to 20 points a game, 20 rebounds. I mean, she was just killing it, and they couldn't stop it. And then the second half of the season, they knew what I was doing. So they went out on her, went to a 5-out offense, when she went out, they just slanked in like this, like a V, so she couldn't get, get the shot off. And I said, Jake, 4 out, 1 in, roll back in. She'd go back in, she'd get in, and she'd just kill him,
Yeah, that's a nightmare scenario, having tallest person on the court that could shoot.
Yeah, and they was like, coaches always tell me, they said, Coach, congratulations, on your first year, but man, she didn't do that last year. I said, yeah, probably not, because I watched the film on. I said, nah. I said, but she's killing, and that's what I was trying to teach them is the mentality of I can pass you the ball, you just shoot it.
Going back to, I forget exactly where it was when you were in West Virginia, like the coach coming down and just watching the kids that had the right temperament is fantastic, right? Because we've all seen it, especially in youth football, and I'm more of a football coach, or even in the weight room. There's plenty of kids that are just more mature, so they appear better because they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. But all they really are is just they hit puberty
couple years
earlier,
ahead.
right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be great, right? There's plenty, we joke about it, there's tons of youth football quarterbacks that by the time they hit high school are like, they're still 4'6". And it's like, well, that's not probably going to work anymore. So going down there and just finding the kids that want to work and want to hustle and like defense and stuff like that, like that's a great way to go. Instead of just, I feel like a lot of coaches probably go down and they're like, oh, look at that receiver is very good, or that point guard is talented. Like that's awesome going the other way.
Yeah, well, Olympia coach, I don't know if you know John Cowley. You know of him?
I don't.
He's been coaching there for years. He retired and came back a couple years ago. That's what he does. He starts in the middle school in the 7th grade. And he starts like a little program to get dads to coach those kids. And that's why Olympia program always been good. Because he would give them his playbook and teach those little ones everything. So when they get up to the 9th, 10th, 11th, grade, they already know the system and they already got confidence in the system, And even up in Shelton, we tried that when I first got there, but we didn't have that many kids. But
right.
We didn't have that many kids out there, and it was hard. I mean, my first year we had 30 kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, 30 kids, that's it. And, it was tough. And then as the years went on, it built up, but it was just 30 to 38 to 42, or I think the most I ever had when I was there was 60-something. And then that's
hard
because you had to cut them,
Right.
Yeah, and then Shelton's also got the extra issue of, like, this is kind of getting in the weeds, but like having the several sending schools. So like you got to get out to those little tiny schools in the middle of nowhere if you want to actually, interact with the kids who you're going to see later.
Yeah. Which, if you're thinking like Hood Canal, again, where no one other than the people who local are caring about this, but like large native population, they play a lot of their own basketball, right? Like a lot of our best basketball players over the years have come from Hood Canal. So you got lots of different little pockets. You don't just get to go to like one middle school.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, let's run it. Like you're working.
Yeah. Yeah. I got one and only one basketball story. I didn't play a lot of basketball. Had a lot of knee injuries when I was a kid. But I had a good friend who I hope you'll appreciate this story. He had a son who was playing basketball at Shelton, and he was good. But he wasn't really great, and he was like, I'm going to the NBA, I'm going to be the best, like that our school's ever seen and all this kind of stuff. And the dad didn't ever want to have the conversation with his son that, like, you're probably not good enough to make it to the NBA. So what he did was he sent him to a super competitive basketball camp in Washington, D.C. And he went and did the basketball camp for a couple weeks and came home and was like, I think I need to come up with a plan B.
When you go into the layup line and it's a dunk line, like,
yeah.
What the hell's going on here?
Yeah. Because I mean, he was a decent athlete and he was 6'1" or 6'2" or something, and so he did fine in high school basketball. But when he got around a bunch of 6'6", 6'8", real monsters who've been playing basketball their whole lives, it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same game anymore. But you reminded me of that, talking about going up and playing in King County and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you realize the shooters in the NBA are like 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah.
And
that's
3 inches taller than the
when they
tallest.
6'6" to 6'8", and that's small.
Yeah.
You know,
Have you come across anybody like either like just happened to coach or coach against somebody that went on to either the NBA or WNBA?
um,
Had the opportunity to watch anybody like that while they're still young?
I watched. Oh, a couple of years ago, some of the Shelton kids were with me. I took them up to Auburn, and we ran into Jamal Crawford.
Okay.
And no, we played them. I think it was, and they ran us off the court. They ran us. They were seventh graders, and we was eighth graders. They ran us like they owned us. It was, but the way they did it was so professional.
Right.
They wasn't hoo-ha and hopping, and the parents was over there acting like, you know what, but they was just. He had them in. If they did something wrong, he didn't chew them out. He was like, come here. He had them there, all eyes on me type mentality. When he talked, they was listening, because his son was playing too. His seventh grader was playing.
Oh, yeah.
It was good. And then what I loved about it was at the end of the game, was some of the kids got a chance to meet him, and he was in the hallway talking. There's some parents was listening because people were asking him, how you get your kids so good? And the first thing came to him off was, it's all about discipline. He said, all these kids not going to make it to the NBA.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
He said, I was fortunate. All of them not going to make it. Now, if they want to make it, they got to put in the work, But yeah, he was, out of all of them, and it's funny, let me back up. The funny part was, 2 weeks before that, he had a podcast on YouTube I seen. And the guy asked him a question about why you coaching AAU, your son and all that. He said, because some of these parents out here, some of these coaches don't know how to coach. And I was like, and I listened to it, and it went viral too. It was just something that was awesome. He said, these coaches just don't know how to coach these kids. They ride them for a ticket. And
Sure, yeah.
And you can't ride them for a ticket because that bus might not come to pick them up. So just listen to him. And I actually told him, I said, when they got done talking to us, I said, hey, I like what you said on that podcast. He said, you did? He said, man, you the first one ever told me that, somebody liked what I said. I said, well, no. I said, because you're right. I said in the gym. And I listen to parents. I listen to coaches. The profession as a coach is professional. If we're hooping and hollering and pants sagging and hat turned sideways like we drunk, what kind of example we set for the kids when they get to college? You go to college, that coach ain't gonna be wearing his hat turned sideways, pants down, wearing a pair of Jordans.
Everybody's in a suit and tie.
Yeah, got 5 chains around their neck. They ain't gonna be doing all that stuff. They can't adapt to that. And what he was saying is they got to be engaged the right way. And his program, which I like, which is Rotary style. They've been around for 30 years. Even when I started, they was already in the mix of it. And so they got the most NBA players ever came out of that place.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jamal Crawford was the one, that stands out for me.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Not only a great basketball player, but he's put a lot back in the Seattle area.
He was. Yeah, he just. I don't know if you heard the things called the insole called Move. Yeah. They real soft. They got them for like sports and walking shoes and he bought his whole program up there, those right there. And I went and bought a pair just to see how they feel. I ain't gonna lie, I got myself some and my grandson some, cause they play basketball. And I asked him, I said, I want you to test these out, let me know, because one of them was getting shin splints a lot. I said, just let me know how you feel. I got him to basketball once. And I asked him, I said, so how you like them? He said, Papa, these are good. For $50, and they last forever. I wear mine for walking in my regular shoes. Those are the best things ever. The best, because got flat feet. I got poor feet, and so my arches are this good. They done. So I got.
Yeah, I might have to pick some up.
Yeah, I done tried everything. I said I can't go wrong, and I bought those, and they comfortable. And I watched him, listen to him promote them. I said these are not bad. So
Yeah.
I know one time, kind of the first time I got a witness to like that, there are next level athletes. You always tell the story of the guy jumping out of the 20-story, like not 20-story, but 20-foot, like the ring to go take his throws. But it was, I think, my junior year. We were playing Bremerton High School at Shelton, and Marvin Williams was at Bremerton.
Oh.
And Marvin Williams goes on to play, I think, 1 year at University of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he was with the Atlanta Hawks and was sixth man of the year, like NBA, like maybe not all-star, but stud. Great career. So we had a real tall, and he's tall, obviously. And we had a real tall guy by the name Bill Richardson. And Bill was shutting him down the whole game. Like, we were supposed to get blown out. It goes, I can't remember his last name. I wish I did, but I remember his first name is Colby. Fadeaway three-pointer from the corner. It was like almost like Ray Allen-esque when he's on the Heat and he beats the Spurs or ties the game up with the Spurs. Just crowd goes wild, forces it to overtime, and it was like, dude, we're going to beat these guys. This is awesome. And Marvin Williams in overtime scored 30. 30. It was like he was like, really?
He'd been taking a break.
Yeah, he expected the team to just win. Like, I wanted a night off. And I'm not even joking you when it was one pass, Williams, tip, come down, thunderous dunk. He didn't even leave. Try to inbound it, grab it, dunk, come back, steal it, three ball from like 10 feet beyond the arc. It was like, and then he kind of just like looked at the crowd who was yelling, and he just kind of looked at us and he was like,
I'm done.
there you go. And I was like, all right, that's a different type of human right there. That was embarrassing. Like, because it was such, it went from like the most exciting moment to just like, oh, all right. Yeah. He was being nice, I guess.
He was a beast too. He was a beast too.
Yeah.
He's back. I think he's back up there in Bremerton doing good things too.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
He got a center after him.
Needs it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important as a youth coach, like, or even like, we always try to tell kids out of the Shelton area, like, and people can, if you don't know, like, we're a kind of a rural community. Mm-hmm. Like, get out, go experience the world, so you'll learn that not everything is a small rural town. Mm-hmm. But then go be successful and come back, bring that success back to the community, and then all of those problems that you talked about, right? Like, if you didn't like the town or you didn't like the culture, like, we need you guys to come back to make those better. If no one ever comes back, it's really hard to change the culture.
Well, that's the same down here too. I mean, I don't know if you know Lyle Oberbay. He's a baseball player. Played at Centralia, and then he went to.
Yeah, he's up at Tumwater.
Yeah, Tumwater. He was in the Major League Baseball for 16 to 18 years. And I got a chance. He owns the hub. He's one of the owners of the hub in Centralia. Yeah. When they opened up, I got a chance to meet him. I didn't know who he was, and we were sitting there because they wanted to get basketball going and all that. And they asked me how to do it, and I told them, and they knew I had my program, so he brought me in down there, and we sat down there, and we had lunch. Him and I don't know if you know Dale Poland.
I don't.
He used to own what's that fitness center down there? They got a gym right around the corner. Thorbecks.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually started Thorbecks. He was a power lifter. I think he was in the Olympics back in the day. He was the all-time power lifter at Centralia.
Okay.
Back in the day. So those two got together, and the land where the hub is at used to be Lyle's parents' land, and then Dale had the other side with the baseball field. So they just collaborated and did that. And just listen to them. I mean, if you ever want to meet humble people, like you said, go experience, come back. they did it. And they built their hub, the first part of the hub, and had it started in 2016 when they opened it up. But those guys are the ones that, what I try to tell kids is, you guys go out and come, make your little money and do what you got. Come back and do what they doing. Like in Shelton, I'm glad they got the YMCA out there now. I mean, for years, when I was there, the kids had nowhere to go.
Nope.
They go down there. They didn't even go cross street do frisbee. They didn't even do that. They go get in trouble over there. I remember many times I used to get phone calls. I'd be at practice. Is my son in practice? Yeah. Where is he at? Then we get another call. It'd be Walmart calling us. We got so and so over here, and we had to walk over in the rain, go get him. How you get out the building? Snuck out the back door. What were you doing?
Reminds me of a story. I saw a kid walking out. This was probably 3 years ago now. Walking out, it was first day of tryouts. He's walking out the back door, and I was just leaving the weight room. He had his basketball shoes in his hand. He's looking all grumpy. I was like, "What happened, man?" And he's like, "Oh, I got cut." I was like, "On day one?" He's like, "Cuts ain't even for 3 days. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I went and vaped in the stadium."
Oh my God!
It's like, you left practice to go vape, and they came back and they asked him, and he was like, he thought honesty is the best policy, but doesn't mean it doesn't got consequences.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, I just went and hit the vape," and I was just like, "Oh my goodness." Well, it's probably a good thing you got cut. Like, good grief, man. Like, it ain't easy raising these kids, man.
But I try to get, but the Shelton kids, I always tell them, because they ask me about AAU, and I tell them, I think when KC, Jason Kenyon's group was the first group that I could actually talk into going playing outside of Shelton, because we knew we had something special. We had like 10 kids that was coming up together, and we took them up to Auburn, down to Portland and stuff, and they got a chance to see it, and we kept on. Me and Coach Sam, we kept on trying to get more kids to get involved. I'm glad now, this generation right now, you have more kids playing outside of Shelton and learning from other coaches, and learning the different styles.
Right.
Because when I seen you down there the other day, I was asking kids, "So how's AAU with so-and-so?" "Coach, it's brutal." I said, what you mean? "Coach, we losing about 50. We played one game, we lost by 75. I'm like, "Who y'all play?" And they would tell me. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I know, like, they're not gonna let up on you, But they learning it, and I'm watching. Like I tell the kids, when you go to them places like that, just don't go out there be oblivious. Watch what the other person is doing. Watch the flow of the game, and then look at yourself. I said, have somebody film the game for you. So you can look how, okay, man, either you slow or you're lost, one of the two. You need to see. So when you come back down here at this level, what you learn out here, you can fix when you come back home. And I think I was talking to like Billy, big tall Billy.
Right, Big Billy.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I remember when he walked. This is funny. Last year, I think it was his 8th grade year, I didn't know who he was. You know that the circle of the court is the first day I never forget. I got all the kids in the middle, right? And I was telling them, "Hey, I'm Coach Pringle, used to coach up here, getting in my story." Coach Sam was there because he wanted me to introduce myself to the new ones. I said, "So, this is what I do." He asked me to come help you. I coached Coach Sam when he was 14, da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden everybody, how people looking at you this way. I'm looking like, you guys looking at me, and he looking at Billy, right? And he walked behind me, and I look back, I'm looking like, "Are you a senior? Are you coming to help?" He said, "No, I'm an 8th grader." I took my glasses off like, Coach Sam turned around and started laughing, man. I'm like, I said, "How tall are you?" 6'5". I said, "What?" I said, "Oh my God." I said, "You're an 8th grader?" I said, "How old are you?" "Oh, I just turned 14. I had to stop everything. I was like, And so I told Omar, I said, Omar, is he serious? He said, Coach, he's an 8th grader. I said, oh my God. And I watched, now you watch Billy, he's dominating.
Yep.
I mean, I think a couple nights ago he had 2 dunks. He couldn't even jump when he was 6'5".
Yeah.
You know, we tried to get him to dunk, he couldn't even get off the ground. He said, well, I asked him update, because I gave I told Coach Sam, I said, hey, I'm going to give him a pair of shoes, you know, because I always, if I see kids need some help, I get stuff for them. So I went and ordered him a pair of shoes, and I said, hey, I'm going to give it to him. So his dad had to be there. And his dad said, thank you. And I said, you know something? I said, that kid came from 1 year to 2 years of playing basketball, freshman and his sophomore year. And look where he at now. He's dunking. And I asked him, I said, how you get so fast? Coach, I'm running track. I said, that's what I'm talking about. He's starting to figure it out. And you know Mason, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, you two got the, I love that kid to death. That
he's
kid,
fantastic.
He gives me goosebumps. I seen him as a freshman. I didn't know who he was. And Coach Sam said, well, you seen Billy, wait till you see Mason. I said, Mason? And I said, this little chubby kid sprinting down the floor. He beating the guards down the floor. Right? And
goofy kid.
Goofy kid, glasses like this. And he just running. And he got his hand, give me the ball. And he get the ball to him and he finished. I'm looking like, and I watched the whole game. It was a C-team game. And I walked up to him, I said, you don't know me, but I'm your biggest fan. He said, huh? I said, I'm your biggest fan. I never seen a big person like you run the floor you do, where you do. I think Casey had like 8 players that game. I said, you running that floor, and he was soaking wet too. You know, he works hard. And I said, man, you're awesome. And so I seen him again on Tuesday. I looked at him again, the same thing again. I said, this kid is spontaneous energy. It's positive energy in him. And he just, so you got some good kids up there that's coming up. And they just playing to have fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like how you say, like, when you do go, sometimes you get put up against a team that you just don't match up against. Sometimes,
Right.
you know, like, especially when you get into tournament ball. I brought my boy up there to that, I forget what it's called, but the Auburn, up there in Auburn, the big courts that's attached to the outlet.
Yeah.
But yeah, play house or whatever. But I think the last game on the first day, they're walking out, and it's just like the kids. I wanted to have been able to hang with the height of these. Like they're supposed to be like 8th grade, 9th grade, and I was just like, holy crap! Like their smallest guy was 4 inches taller than our tallest kid. And so, but the kids hustled, right? Like they tried their best. They just couldn't. Like the level of basketball was different, right? We had the school team was entered into an AAU tournament, and usually that doesn't work out real great. But the kids got to learn, like you said, like you get to see what high level basketball looks like. Mm-hmm. They're not doing anything fancy, right? They're just hustling. They're getting back. The passes are in the correct spot at the correct time, and they're making their shots. So like having the young kids be able to like see that, like see what it's supposed to look like, if you're mature enough.
Right.
You might also just come back and be like, oh, they were too tall, or that kid looked like he was 17. Which one did? One of them was like, I'm pretty sure that kid drove the bus with the other kids in it.
We do that a lot. I do that a lot. Like, yeah, he drove. Yeah, that one drove too. You know.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. There was a kid we just played there when I ran into you. The Montesano team, unfortunately, they only had 5 kids show up, and the coach said like, this is gonna be a learning experience. Like you better hold your friends accountable, because 2 games with 5 kids, no subs. Oh. And that first team that they played, like I call them like they're a pack of hornets. Like I don't even know if they're playing basketball. they just swarm the ball, and it's like pops out, goes the other way, layup. It's like you can't play that kind and then have a game right after that. But there was a boy on that team that I was like, dude, I want this guy. I don't know, he looked like a college junior. Like mustache, just shoulders were built, hustling. He made it 2 quarters hustling, and then after that, it was just everybody was dead. But it's like, oh my, you're a freshman? This is a good-looking freshman, man. Like, I don't care what sport I'm coaching, I want that boy on my roster.
Well, your kids up there, your C team, well, your JV2 team and your JV team. I told Sam yesterday, I said, they better than the varsity. I just love them. They just tenacious, man. They just
the energy. I think they almost started like the energy and getting after each other as a joke. I felt like, but it's become like they accidentally made it their culture. So now everybody knows that if they're going to get the reaction to like the other kids, they got to be doing crazy hustle plays, and it's like, dude, it's building.
It is. I watched them all over the floor. I mean, they're playing Yelm.
Yeah,
they're playing Yelm, and Yelm was trying to get a little head up, and all of a sudden, it's like a light switch. It came on, and man, all I seen was diving, sliding, passing. I mean, I'm looking like I stood up and thought, that's what I'm talking about. That's basketball. That was like football, basketball together. And they was high-fiving each other. They were standing up with each other. And I told Sam, I said, this is the difference. Your next couple of generations, couple classes coming through, that's going to be your success. With this varsity, they got a chance to be successful, but they're at that point of distractions. And I'm talking about distraction is girlfriend, got to get a job, I'm on varsity so I don't have to work hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
That type of distraction. Where them, they don't care. And if they lose, they don't wear it on their shoulders. It's like, okay, it's gone. We got another game.
Yeah.
And your kids, that's what I was trying for years to get up there in Shelton to have. And just to come watch them and just not, I know a couple of kids because, they whooped me last year, but man, those kids just, woo. I tell you what, the mini dome will be packed in a couple of years. It's going to be, people be standing outside the door trying to get in. But they going to
So Coach, one thing you said there, which I'm interested, since you are coaching college, is as a high school coach, we deal with that a lot in football and then like all the other sports, there's not a lot of people that can get to that first place spot. Like I say it in powerlifting quite a bit, like it's way easier to be in second and train to try to catch somebody than it is to be in the front and train to nothing, right? Like there's no challenge. You have to train hard for possibly what might feel like no reason, right? Like, so I don't feel like there's a lot of people that are really good at that. How do you, I would imagine you see that a little bit when you're coaching college.
Yeah.
Like, because a kid just trained their whole life and then they have that feeling of, not all of them, but I would imagine some have that feeling of, I made it. When really it's like you should have the mentality just like you had going from 8th grade to freshman year, where it's like, oh man, I'm at the bottom. Like I need to work my butt off now to just be competitive. Like, do you see that at all? And if so, like how do you try to deal with that with older kids?
Yeah. Well, this past season was kind of challenging. Like I was talking about Jalen Sackrider, my post. She always wanted to play D1. She always did. And when the coach left him with the Boise, she wanted to go with him, but that coach up there didn't, they didn't feel that she was, what they was looking for. So, she started the season out working hard. Then she hit the little spot where she, well, I'm not good enough. I can't get there. Well, let you know this right here. She just got picked up. She had a 5th year that she can play. She didn't know. This school called me last week from Fairfield University in Connecticut. They went to the tournament this past year on the women's side. They just signed her for another year, her 5th year. And now, the funny thing is, she was coming to Shelton to be a teacher next year. So she was going to be a teacher at Shelton and do volleyball, hopefully, because she's a volleyball player too. But just to watch her grow, because Evergreen, how can I put it? Evergreen looks at us as not Evergreen, but people look at Evergreen as, oh, it's just a little school of weirdos. You know, everybody's weird. They wear pink hair, whatever they do.
Right.
You know, they don't look at the athletics, and athletics not number one. So, since I know the history of the women's program, they've never been real good. They've been okay. It's like, being looked down upon as second class. Like, our conference is strong. You got Southern and you got College of Idaho and all that. So the players that come in, some of them wasn't recruited. They just came and, joined the team. Some of them was recruited. And then you had some of them that, just want an opportunity. So what I had to do and deal with was I had to figure out what was each person's goal is when I got here. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Because I'm all about, okay, you play this level, and because I've seen it happen, you can go overseas and play too when you graduate. I've been to an overseas combine. I see what they do. I learn by watching. And I told them, I said, just because we're not strong here, don't mean you can't be strong somewhere else. Everybody sees something different in somebody for their program. And so I was trying to get Jay to go do that. But, she said, no, she's going to get married and all that. But, a lot of these kids, and I got one now, she was never won in high school. She never won in college. I mean, not a game in college. And her goal is, her sister went to UW, her brother went to UW, sister played volleyball, I think her sister coach up there now, is an assistant coach. And she's from Oregon. And she told me, she said, Coach, I never won anything. And she works hard. Every day she's in the weight room. She tore her ACL a year ago, got a rehab, came back 8 months early, played in 4 games. And she's up, moving up, to this year. And she told me, my goal is to get an opportunity to either go play at a D1 or I can go overseas. Do you think I can do it? I said, yeah, because her work ethic is amazing.
Right.
But she just needs an extra person to help her get there with the mindset of teaching them you can't get discouraged. You got to stay focused on your goal. If your goal is to make that next jump, it can happen. And like I told her, I said, look at Jay. Jay thought she was done. And here this lady, here this guy calling me, asked me, can he talk to her? And now she's going to play. She left this morning.
That's awesome.
They put her on a red eye this morning to Connecticut to start workouts. And I'm sitting like, that's a blessing. You always wanted to play at the next level and you think you didn't make it. Now you made it, And they gave her, Coach, I ain't gonna lie to you, she got a package I wish I would have got. I'm telling you, school paid for 9 months. She don't have to graduate because she already got a master's. She gets, I think she gets a stipend. She gets NIL.
Dang, good for her.
Yeah, and this is the first I ever heard out of this area that got it.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. But these kids, a lot of these kids I notice in their culture is, and not a knock on the coaches because I just watch everybody. I think some of us don't know how to get inside their head, figure out what they want, find out their strengths, find out their weaknesses, guiding them to the right place. Like I always tell them, culture, all in, no excuses. That's what we got to have. We get, our culture going to be, we're going to love on each other, we're going to push each other. You walk in practice, you beat each other down. If you get in a little competition, that's fine. As long as you don't put hands on each other, we good. But at the end, we're going to love each other, we're going to hug each other, and it's gone, That's what makes a team. Because I watch Oklahoma City, I'm watching all these teams play, and I'm just not just watching the game, I'm watching the culture. Sacrifice for one another. When you do that, you'll win, and everybody be successful, and that's what down at Evergreen is. I'm trying to change that culture to that, You know, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about all of us. If you hot, we all eat. If you're not hot, I'm not hot. We don't eat, and I'm hungry. So how can we make this happen? Everybody got to eat, right? So everybody get hot. You know, let's work together. Let's make it happen. You know, win or lose, we come out. At least we get something out of this. You know, and like Jalen, I'm so proud of her. You know, for her to make that jump. This young lady that I was talking about, you know, she wants to do the same thing. You know, and it's all about, you know, making them believe in themselves because, you know, we all go through stuff every day. You know, life is life. You know, and we deal with it. Like coming down and watching your kids. You know, I watch you guys on football, on Mason Webb TV. I watch them. You know, and I said, you know, and that's because I know some of the kids. And I'm like, okay, he grew up. Well, no, he didn't grow up. He's still doing the same stupid stuff. You know, I can tell. You know, and then when I see him at Walmart or I see him down here at Costco, I'm like, hey, coach, yeah, I seen you. I seen what you're doing. You're not doing right. You didn't listen to the coach. You got a good coach. Listen to your coach. He's pushing you the right way. You want to get out? Like Bennett. I love Bennett. You got Fletcher now. I love Fletcher.
Yep.
He's kind of goofy, but he's all right. He's a great kid, though, you know. And him and Mason, those kids got something special. And I think by having you guys up there coaching them and showing them the right way, man, it's gonna be amazing. I can't wait to football season to watch them play. Because I never watched Fletcher this year. Did he play this year? Fletcher play?
Yeah.
He did? Was he on varsity or was he on JV?
JV.
JV?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see him play. Because I told him, I said, I didn't watch you. I watched your brother. But I didn't watch you. He said, okay. Because I got his sister helping me coach.
Right.
You know, she's one of my assistants. So. But
yeah, it's kind of bring it full circle like you were talking about there. The selflessness. Like we were talking about Jamal Crawford. Like that's a perfect example. Like I guarantee you he could have got a big contract from a struggling team.
Oh, yeah.
But he never really did. He was always willing to go be that
sixth
man, right? Like I'll be the hustle guy. I'll take the shots when I need it. But there's times in games where it's like when he wanted to turn it on, it was like, dude, what are you doing, man? You should be leading the squad somewhere. But
right.
He understood that by just filling a role on a team, like, is going to make a team go from a good team to a great team.
Right.
And that I think is lost right now. I think it's, I don't want to say it's like on this era because I think that's pretty common forever. People have wanted to be the star, but it's, man, if you could just have a little bit of selflessness and work towards a team, that's when teams get pretty special. Even if you're not successful at wins and losses, you're gonna feel more successful because you're more of a family.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, not to cut you off, but going back to OKC, there's a lot of little guys that could have been at another place playing, you know, starting, making big money, but they sacrificing just by playing their role. Some of them don't get in, but they're the biggest cheerleader on the bench. You know, when they do get a chance, they go in, and if it's 2 minutes, if it's 5 minutes, if it's 8 minutes, they do a big one. You know, it's a guy on there named Wiggins. He didn't play that. He played a couple games this year, but he didn't play a lot. And what he do? They called him in there. Boom, he goes in. They did the big trade. Got Caruso come in there. Caruso got a ring, so they playing him because he got experience. You know, he sacrificed. He's 6'6", playing a 7-footer. You know, and he's doing a good job. You know, the sacrificing for the team, being they're not being self-centered. You know, they being okay. It's not about me. It's about we. You know, I got a saying that I got from Doc Rivers. It's called Ubuntu. It says, I can't gain success unless you gain success with me. You know? And what it means is, if I'm not doing well, if you're not doing well, I'm not doing well. We got to work together so we both be successful on the team. And I share that with the girls down here. I said, we got to lean on each other. I said, we're not going to have every day a good day of basketball. We're going to have days we don't hit no basket at all. We're going to have days where, something at home ticked you off, or your boyfriend or whoever going to get in the way of your mind. I said, so we got to look out for each other, and we got to lean on each other. So when you get that frustrated, you need to come let that out, or when you walk through the door, like here's another one I use. Whatever happened in the world, when you get to that door or you get to that gate, you turn around, you close that gate. When you close that gate, you left it all behind. Once for the next 2 hours, if it's a football practice, a basketball practice, baseball, you focus on your teammate and everybody else and the coach. When you go back out, I cannot guarantee it's not going to be there waiting.
It's not going to be sitting right there.
It's going to be sitting there waiting for it. So get ready to, okay, open the door. It's going to come back on your shoulders. And you get home, you got to let it go. But that's just life. But for those 2 hours, you got to just let it go and get yourself together. And so your team don't suffer, and you don't let your team down, And I think that's what got us. The first part of our season, we were struggling with that because everybody had all kind of, man. I was getting phone calls, text messages, emails, people coming to the office crying. I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm Dr. Phil, I said, I told him I ain't got time for drama. I just can't do, me and drama don't mix. So I can't do it. So it took all the way up to we started winning. We went on a 5-game winning streak. And in Evergreen, every year before I got there, they was winning only 8 games. 8 games all they win. And they win just enough to get to the playoffs. And we was on that track of doing the same thing. So I just told them one day, I called practice. I came in at 6, talked to the coaches. They were doing what they had to do. And I came down there, and we got the back gym at Evergreen with the wall up. So I wanted a private practice. And so I went back there, and I stood at the doorway, and I just looked. You know how you feel something like the air is not right? People
right.
And I heard little snip here, little snip there. I said, okay, everybody in the middle. And they looked at me. Now everybody's being friendly, right? I said, everybody go home. I said, what? We got a game tomorrow. No, we go home. I said, the air is not right. And you guys don't like each other. And everybody it got quiet. And I'm like, we're supposed to be a family. If I can't call you out, then we're not family. We say the word family, but we're not. I said, you guys, you're not feeling what I'm feeling. And so I asked the coaches, what do you feel? Coach, you right. I said, don't just say it because I'm saying it. What do you feel? Well, she was hauling at her over here, and over here, she wouldn't pass the ball to her. I said, yeah, we've only been here 20 minutes. And you going home. Good night. And one of them said, you can't do this. I said, excuse me? Get out the gym. And so they went right to the trainer because she was their best friend, and told her he kicked us out of practice. So she came around the corner and said, what's going on, coach? I said, you're not my boss. They go home. I can go home and watch the NBA. I ain't got time for this. And I walked out, she called my boss, and he said, what happened to practice? I said, the energy wasn't there. And I sent them home. I want them to go home and think about it. They say they're a family. We're not a family. And I said, let you know, she shouldn't. They went to the trainer because they knew her as their friend, right? And she thought they thought that she could talk me out of it. When I had my bag packed, I was ready to go home. I had my backpack on my shoulder, come down the elevator. They said, Coach, you serious? I said, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Game time, shoot around at 12. Game time, be in the locker room about 1:30. Hey, but when they came back, this is what the funny part was. I went down to the locker room, put the uniforms in there, and they said, there's a sign on the door. Team meeting, no coaches. And I said, oh, now they don't want me in the locker room. And so I said, okay. So I went back, And I told one of the coaches walking down, I said, oh, they don't want us in there. Hell yeah, I seen the group chat. They got a team meeting. I said, oh. I said, well, as long as it's good. If it's something negative, I'm going to bench everybody.
It goes one of two ways.
Yeah.
It goes one of two ways right there.
Yeah. So I just stood in the hallway by the main entrance, and when they got done, the captain came down, Jalen came down to coach. Can you come down to the locker room? I said, yeah. No, we don't have our uniforms. I said, I was coming to put it in there, but I didn't know you was having a team meeting. You know, oh yeah, we should have put you in. No, I said, all right, but it's good. So I go down there, and I put the tub down, I'm looking there, they look at me, all I'm looking down the ground like this. And Jay said, out of all my years of playing basketball, I never got thrown out of practice. And nobody else here. And we don't understand why, but we kind of understand why. Can you explain it? I said, yeah. I said, I watch you ladies every day. I watch and see who's having a good day, who's having a bad day. And if you notice, when you're having a bad day, I drift more towards your way, don't I? Some of y'all. And I call some names out. I said, remember when you and your little friend broke up and you told me, you know, you're having a hard time? You know, I know you don't start crying now. I know. I was there for you in practice because you didn't want to leave practice. I told you to go in the hallway and pull yourself together. You didn't want to do it. I said, well, I was there, right? Right? I said, you remember over here when you got that ticket for speeding? You know, and it got upstairs? What happened? You was there, you went and talked to the AD, and yeah. I said, okay. So, but you was defeated because, you know, he would be upset. You knew your mom and dad get upset. They told you don't speed no more because you'll lose your license. So, when you drive, because you drive from Federal Way all the way down here, I said, so when, it's a thing called take your foot off the gas, gently touch it, you know, till you get to 60, then you stay at 60. If you got cruise control, just lock it in. You know, I just went up on that. I said, I'm not just your coach. I'm the extended parent. I'm that extended a teacher. I'm the extended friend. You guys are meaner to each other than I ever seen. And I don't know how y'all got been together 3, 4, maybe 5 years. How did you guys win? That's why you only win 8 games. Because you get upset with, if Josh makes 12 points, you make 6, and I'm upset. Well, I'm upset. We won the game. Josh, he had 12, so what? You know, you guys
be happy in each other's successes.
Yeah. I said, we killed each other. I said, you know, that's what family, I said, if family can't call each other out, then we're not a family. I said, so if you guys want to say the word family, you got to mean it. And they kind of like, yeah, but we never been thrown out. I said, man, I'm tell you something. When I was at Shelton, we used to lock the dome. We put them out there in the rain, go home. Lock the dome. You know? I had Keith come over, lock the door. Keith, lock all of them up. They ain't come back in here. I had Jason King. Well, you know Jason Kenyon.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. He went off on me. He said, Coach, you going to shut us out of practice? You can't do that. And he started swearing. I said, first fight, I don't swear. Don't you swear. He said, okay, my bad. But, Coach, I ain't going home. He said, it's just one of them other ones that's messing up. I said, well, if you're a leader, why are you not correcting them? Whose job is that? It's my job to do everything. And Jason, like, I'll be back. You know that little lobby area?
Yeah.
He cussed all of them out. I said, Jason, go home. Coach, that's the first time I've seen Jason cry. He didn't want to go home. You know, they came back the next day, we told him the same thing. I told him, I said, hey, look, you guys come to practice. For 4 months we have you. It's work. This is a job. I'm preparing you for life. You're going to have struggles in your life. You're going to have hard times. If you can't get through this, what you going to do in a real job? What you going to do when your boss telling you your work production is not good enough? Are you going to quit, walk out? Or are you going to work it? Or are you going to fix it out? Or work the issue out? That's what I'm trying to teach you guys. I told him, don't get me wrong. I'm hard, but if I didn't be hard, I can just use you as for basketball players for the season. I can just say, okay, do what you want to do, and then I'm not helping you. You know, that's why I told the women, I'm not helping you if I sit here and just baby you or let you
Right.
be your way. I'm trying to get you right, you know. And now they starting to see it because the season's over, and they like, man, I asked Coach, he was kind of laid back. And I know him too. I said, everybody's different. I said, I'm passionate about building character. You know, I want to build character. When you walk out of here, I want you to say, man, I learned something. When I go in that workplace, or if I go overseas and play, and that guy calls and say, hey, how's this person's work ethic? I'm not going to sit there and lie and say, oh, they're the best player in America. I'm going to say, either you good or you suck. Or you got, or if you're going to be a cancer, or you're going to be a teammate. Because I'm not thinking just about you. I'm thinking about the next person come behind you. He might want them too. And
Right.
reputation is a big thing, you know. Well, you know, in sports, coaches call all the time, you know, asking, hey, so tell me the real deal. You know, I do it with the high school coaches that I call about their players. You know, tell me the real deal. Is there anything I need to know? Because if it is, that weighs a lot, you know, for me to make my decision if I can help them or not, you know.
Yeah, if you're an athlete out there and you don't think that the coach is telling that college coach the truth,
Yeah.
you're crazy, because we do. Because just like you said, I do want you to make it to that school, but I want that recruiter to come back.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to know exactly what they got, and then to trust the staff so they come back and get more kids.
Yeah.
You send one person under some lies, tell him that
Right.
he's a great teammate and stuff, and all of a sudden he's in there, you know, throwing fits. They're
That
never
happened with my
coming and
son's
getting
team.
more kids.
My son did that when I had the gym down here in Tumwater. This girl I met, she went to Pierce, and I met her and her mom, and they came to work out with me. And I was talking, I asked her, so when you going next year? She said, oh, no, nobody wants me, right? And so she was a post, too. She was a good post. And so I'm sitting there over the summer, and my son came up, and I said, hey, I want you to come down to the gym to just look at this girl. I didn't tell her who he was. I told him who she was. And he looked at her and said, oh, she's nice. And so I went to the bathroom, came back. He was talking to her and said, hey, I'm head coach at Simpson University. I can use another post. You know, this is like, their school started in August. This is like July. And he gave her a shot. Man, she went down there and did not go to class the first 3 weeks. My son called and told me, don't you ever call me about anybody from Washington. I said, what happened? He said, she's staying in her dorm. She won't go to class. She come to practice late. I'm looking like, I said, okay. And so I called her mom. And her mom, you know, how parents are. Well, she's homesick. Well, she knew going to California is only 9 hours. She knew going to California, she's not going to be in Tacoma. So what's the problem? I said, she's about to lose her scholarship. And sure enough, after a month, he sent her home. Mom came in and you can't do that. I'm stuck with a student loan and all that shit. No. The AD came in and said, she had not been in class, not even day one. We're not putting up with that. She's gone. And they tried to sue the school, but they couldn't because she felt her obligations. You know? And, you know, and my son told me, he said, no, don't recommend nobody for me. No. I feel bad because I'm trying to help her to help him, you know, and some of these kids don't understand that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like Wheatley asked me the other day, he said, hey, you know, I want to transfer. I said, transfer to where? Then the Evergreen, can you give me the coach's number? I said, yeah. So I called coach, I said, I got a kid from Sheldon, good kid.
Fantastic kid.
Are you full? He said, well, I'm full this year. I said, okay. He said, he can come in and maybe redshirt. I said, okay. I said, well, you won't have no problem with this kid because I know him. I know his family. And he would sit in. But then also, too, I think Wheatley can start somewhere. You know, because he has that mentality. He's really smart,
Right.
high IQ. But I know he said he wants to be home close to his grandmother because he's age. And so, and
Very tight family.
yeah, they real tight. And so, I told Coach, yeah, I'll call him. I'll call him back. So I told Weedy to keep texting him, and if you need anything, I'll help you, get through. But I know now he would do well no matter what.
Yeah.
But some of these kids, I don't know. They make you want to not help them, but you want to help them. Like I tell Jeremy, I said, you got the spotlight, buddy. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
3 seconds on the clock. You going to pass or shoot? What you going to do? He gave me that Scooby-Doo look like, oh. I said, Jeremy, it ain't that hard. Confidence, shoot the ball. Because I know you can make it. Yeah, Coach, okay. So, but that's why I'm on him a lot, because for his size, he can be a dangerous player. For Shelton, he's phenomenal, and I know his family real well.
He's a good kid too.
Good kid.
It's always a little easier to root for good kids.
Yeah,
funny how that works.
You know what I mean? But just like you were saying, I just was talking to our athletic trainer yesterday. I'll leave the names out of it, but me and this kid, he ain't even made it to the high school yet, and I'm a high school coach. But me and this kid have somehow, he's the same age as my kid. We've had run-ins already, like a couple of times, just like oil and water. And I just went up to the athletic trainer and was like, God, one of the worst parts about being a teacher or a coach is knowing you got to give a young child grace and room to grow. You know what I mean? Especially because if no one did that for me, I would have been thrown out lots of times. I was a menace. I didn't bring a lot of qualities for a long time, and I was an absolute menace. So trying to think all right, just keep giving these kids second, third, fourth chances. It's still teaching them. I told them what it was like, but it's tough. It's tough sometimes.
Yeah, I was virtually uncoachable till I was 26.
Yes. 37.
And then one day I woke up and was like, a lot of people tried to give me good advice, and I never listened to any of them.
Yeah.
Probably should do that a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
I
I
don't get too frustrated when I run into the hard to coach kids.
Yeah. When I was in high school, well, we was in junior high. It's funny. This is a funny story. Our junior high was on. It's like OBJ is from y'all.
Right.
Right. So the bus come to the junior high for to pick up the kids, and they go pick up the high school kids. So it was like May, and they do spring ball back on the East Coast. You do spring back. That's how they make their team in spring ball.
Okay.
Football. So at the time, I played sandlot football, but not organized football. So all of us that ran track, we used to run in a track club, and so we'd get on the bus, and we had a track coach named James Pryor. He's about 6'4", 300 pounds. And from the high school, he's come over and always talk to us about, you come over here, Anacostia, you're going to be running for us. We got strategic plan, da-da-da-da. And we're like, we ain't running track. We ain't doing no football. Then he said, and you will play football. We're like, what? I said, young kids, I ain't doing nothing. So one day we going out to get on the bus. We laughing, talking. Here, this man standing in the doorway of the bus, right? I said, where you going? We going home. No, you going across the bridge over there to the park. You going to football practice. We don't play football. We run track. When you're on my track team, you gonna play football. No, we not. And he cussed us out so bad we took off running. We ran across that bridge and hid behind some trees, right? And we're like, what we gonna do? And so we never made the first practice. So the next day was strategically planned. Everybody get out of class 5 minutes early. Gotta go to the bathroom. We're going through the back door and hit T Street, because T Street's on the side, and then walk around. So when the bus comes to the high school, we can get on the high school bus and get on the bus that way. Guess who was at the back door? I ain't gonna lie to you.
You've seen that play before.
He knew what we were gonna be, and he just lit us up again. This time he walked us over there with the coach. He said, Coach, these 6 guys are coming in. You got a receiver. I don't know what he played talking about me. You can use him anywhere you want. Right? And tears, we just running with tears, man. He was like, So I went home, told my adopted mom, I said, this guy's crazy. But all the guys in my neighborhood played high school football, and the high school team was good, for years, and they knew him. And this one brother his name is Kevin Queen. His brother was Alvin Queen. His older brother was Melvin. Melvin was an All-American. Alvin was an All-American. And me and Kevin was the same age. And I was telling Kevin, I said, man, Mr. Pryor. He said, Mr. Pryor, man, Mr. Pryor, cool. I said, he ain't chasing you down. Chasing me. He said, man, what's wrong? I told him, he said, go talk to Alvin. So I talked to Alvin, because Alvin was going to be, he would have been a senior my sophomore year. And he said, what's up with you? They said, man, Mr. Pryor, man, who's this guy? He said, man, listen to him. Listen to him. He said, I tell you what, I'm going to come over tomorrow from school. I'm going to grab you guys and take you over the field, meet Mr. Colonna. That was our head coach, right? I want you to go over there. And Mr. Pryor going to be there because they buddies, because all of them was PE teachers. And he said, look, we losing a lot. We need to be built. We want you to come play. I said, Alvin, I don't even know. We played down the park, man. We played with no pads on. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I play. And he said, let's go. He said, you run track, you fast. I said, yeah, but I ain't playing no football, man. Because I watched them guys get hurt. I'm like, man, y'all be tearing each other up. So he took me down there, and Mr. Colonna was even killed. Welcome. You guys, I know Mr. Pryor's kind of rough. He's very intimidating for a big guy, but he cares about you. And I'm looking like, and I think his voice kind of calmed us all down. He said, look, we got 120-something people out here trying to make this team. I'm only keeping 58. So, do you know where you play? And I shook my head, no. So he put us in some drills. He had us do the 40-yard sprint. And we was killing the 40-yard sprint. And then my buddy named Barry, he started to like it, right? And they was on the sideline, and the quarterback name was Waldo. Waldo would throw a long pass, and Barry would just chase it and catch it, right? And now, mind you, we didn't have on cleats. We had on tennis shoes. And he would catch it, and Miss Colonna was taking little notes and stuff. And then, next thing you know, Alvin was telling me, this is how it works. At the end of the 2 weeks, a list come out, and they post it on the door at the gym. So if you made the team the first round, you got to come in the summer, do summer workouts and all that kind of stuff, weight training twice a day and skill training. So we like, okay, we ain't going to make it. We knew we wasn't going to make it, right? Guess what happened? We made it. We in the hallway like this. I'm defeated, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm sitting there like
Pringle knew the whole time.
the whole time. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh. But I learned something from that because he gave us a speech. He said, weight training starts at 8, not 8:01, not 8:02. It starts at 8. You need to be here 30 minutes prior, right? And we didn't have a car, so we had to catch a city bus, in the summer to get down there. And he said, I'm monitoring, and we went from 8 to 10, and then we went outside and did skill stuff, for like another 2 hours, and then we was done for the day. And I was like, it's not really that bad, this guy, but then all the coaches came in, and they told us, we here trying to save you guys from getting in trouble, and we're trying to help you guys with our program. And then he said, I think it was just before it's the viewing period for the NCAA. I think it's like end of July, first part of August. We was out there on the last day doing our thing, and he said, tomorrow morning, the beach is going to be full with a lot of coaches coming in here. I want all you young guys to be here to see what happens. And so we came down there, and he wasn't lying. When you seeing Notre Dame, USC, Texas, and I'm looking like, and that I think what turned me around was he was prepping us. Mr. Pryor was the enforcer. Mr. Colonna was the person that directed, and he guided us, and he showed us, if you do the right things, this is where you can go. It's unlimited. Any one of these schools. I mean, at the time, Pitt was good. Tony Dorsett was up there then. You know, all those guys was playing. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you something. I was in that weight room every day. I was trying to get big, you know, but it helped me transform from the middle school mindset of, you know, being, because I was an introvert. You know, I was more like, I'm not good enough to do this. I just can't. You know, I don't see myself. I'm not gonna make no friends. But having that, it goes back to that family atmosphere. Those guys that was before us, Alvin and all of them, they made sure that we was comfortable. They made sure that they kept us accountable. I mean, if we did something on the field wrong, they grab our face masks and tell us that ain't the way to do it. Get it right and put it back out there. You know, and I think that's how my coaching style came up. Not like this, but of just trying to guide them in certain ways and show them what somebody did for me and got me started, you know, and I think a lot of my coaching style comes from them. You know, that's why I go to all the games watching the kids from Shelton and the kids down here and the kids came through my program. It's just, I want to show them that here's a kid that didn't want to do it, that didn't have no skill, and here's a kid now, he's coaching college. You know, I ask myself sometimes, who would think? I ain't never played a game of basketball, organized basketball in my life. You know, I can talk it, but here I am coaching. I mean, it just, I got a journal. I put, nobody's going to believe this. You know, nobody's going to believe this. Because all my buddies said, you never played basketball. And they did. I'm like, no, I didn't. Because they, you know, see it on Facebook. Man, you doing good. I said, no, I'm doing all right. I'm still learning. You know, I said, the funny part about it is, it goes back to when I didn't want to do football, I learned football. You know, and I can coach some football. I know I can. I mean, I can go just watch it. And I love football. That's how much I can coach it. But I just don't want to go back to it because basketball is something different. And one, too, is I'm not in the rain or the cold either.
Yeah.
You know, I got old bones. I got 2 knee replacements, and you know, they step up on me. I can't move. I can't run like I used to.
That's my joke about why I got out of the Army is I just say, like, if it's raining, I want to have the choice to go in. If I want to be out there, I'll be out there. But I want the option to go inside.
There you go. That's how
I'm tired of having to just go stand in the rain.
Stay in the rain, you know, have somebody talk to you.
But just like you said, like that brings it back. Like if you could look at the all in, no excuses. Like that's a big part. Just like you were saying, we could kind of finish on this. Like I think there is all in with excuses. I'm all in, but I got this going on, and I got this going on. But coach, I'm all in.
Yeah.
All in, no excuses is something different, right? Like there is another stuff that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the thing that takes away from all other things, and that's a big difference.
Yeah, a hard lesson for people to learn too. Like we talked before about giving whatever it takes, right? And whatever it takes sometimes means prioritizing, getting rid of things that you wanted to do that aren't going to fit anymore.
Yeah, you can't do all in, no excuses on 4 different things.
Right.
Like, that doesn't work. Something's got to be the thing.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think it was good. Right, we're getting pretty good at this. 1:29:36, like right in an hour and a half. But yeah, we really appreciate it, Coach Pringle.
No problem. I didn't know you had one, but I kind of like this. I mean, this is actually the 3rd one I've been on. You know, say a podcast. You know, but I kind of like this because it's just it's flows.
Conversational.
Yep. And I think you know. A lot of people, a lot of coaches can learn from other people, you know. Because I was on the Zoom last night. I don't even know about the Point Guard College. Have you heard of that?
I've not.
They call it PGC. I'm going there this weekend up at UW, and this is my first one, so I'm learning on how to, you know, teach kids, high school kids learn basketball, you know, shooting, how to be a point guard. They break down film and all that. But the stuff that you brought up right here, they were talking about last night, you know, and they love helping each other out. Like they asked last night, who's new? I said, I'm new, and all that kind of stuff. They said, well, and I met this guy just on that Zoom. Oh, I did it last year. Oh, I'm going this year, and the person who's running is this, and this. He's good. He's gonna teach you, and he was telling he loves the meetings of the minds. Because I don't know everything, but I do love listening to, like when you guys were talking about your stories. It's some of it's similar. Some of the things is I can take and use for me.
Right.
Say, okay, hey, I see that. I've seen that before. So.
Yeah, and you'll see the best coaches. The best coaches have that mentality. The second you think you know everything, you're done. You're toast. Because things evolve, right? And you don't know everything.
Yeah.
You really don't. But
yeah, it's surprising how long, like we've been in sport a long time now, and it's surprising how long I'll learn something and then be like, oh, I already knew that. Like, you literally can't hold it all in your head. You have to keep practicing and engaging with other people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right. Well,
excited to see you. Good luck.
Yep.
Hopefully Evergreen keeps taking the steps in the right direction.
Yep.
Y'all keep doing what y'all doing. I like it.
Thanks, Coach.
And now I'm a follower too, so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I'll stop the video, but hang out for a second. All right,
Okay.
Party people, like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate it. Helps out the show a ton. Thank you, Dereck, so much for being here. We really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
That stop button.